Thank you. Oh my God. So I'm sandwiched in between Michael Tubbs and all these amazing people from Stockton, and the next group, I believe, is doing autonomous vehicles to talk about farming. So I find that very interesting, because it's not like farming is the new wave or something. I mean, let's be honest here. It's been since 9500 BC, where the 8 Neolithic founder crops like emmer wheat and lentils and chickpeas and hulled barley were first being cultivated. So it's not new. But there are some very new things, I think, around urban agriculture that I would like to share with you, and things that we're doing here in this region and many other cities are doing as well, that we hope that you not just think about, but you go home and you challenge yourself to make some new additions to your city scenery. So one of the things, and forgive me for my notes because I need to make sure that I follow the notes or I will go over time, I guarantee it. So fast forward a few thousand years from that 9500 BC, and this is a picture from Yolo County, just the county north of here, wheat harvest. So we've gone beyond cultivation, or early cultivation now, and now this is full-scale wheat production. And in fact, Yolo County was the #1 wheat producer in the country in the late 1800s, which is pretty shocking, especially for those of you who may be from the Midwest and are thinking, what, wheat production here? So also in that time frame, 60% of our population were farmers. Okay, so 1900, turn of that century, 60% were farmers. And given that the population of the country at that time was about 76 million, that's a lot of farmers. That was about 45 million farmers, and most of them were living and farming in rural areas. Okay, today we have a population, give or take 330 million. 1.8% of our population are farmers. That's around 6 million farmers, okay? We also have another little small problem with the farming population, just a little one, and that is that the average age of the farmer is right around 60. But more importantly, for those of us who work in this area, is the average, is actually the generation difference, okay? So for every farmer under the age of 25, we have 5 over the age of 75. So there's only one other occupation in the United States that has an average age that's older, and that is truck drivers. I want you to think about that for a little bit, as we have the Amazon trucks going all around right now. Just think about that. These are some pretty big challenges. So I kind of like this quote from our former Agriculture Secretary, Tom Vilsack. And he said, as you can see there, we have an aging farming population. If left unchecked, this could threaten our ability. People might not feel this threat every day, not maybe the people in this room. Other people might, certainly do every day. But I want to make sure that people understand that this is a real threat. This is a real threat to our food supply. This is a real threat to our community and our country's resiliency. So what are we going to do about it? Okay? Well, one of the things I would like to talk to you about is that after the World War II and the Victory Gardens, really, we pushed agriculture out of our cities. We completely pushed it out for, I'm sure, very legitimate and good reasons. But the faces of farming today are very different, and they very much want to be in your cities, in your towns, in your communities, and they want to be farming right next to their consumers. Some faces here today. If you're on our tour later, you'll meet Sarah Bernal on the right. She didn't grow up in farming. She grew up in Boston. She grew up working in social services and with homeless. And she's now a manager of our farming operations in West Sacramento, and farmed on her own for 6 years before that. The man on the left, A.J. Gomez, he's the son of farm workers. I want to bring to the force here that many of the new faces in agriculture are millennials, they're career changers, they are refugees. And again, they want to farm in cities. The city of West Sacramento saw this. They realized that this was an issue. They realized that they had something to offer that all cities have to offer, which new farmers need, which is access to land. Okay, the two biggest obstacles to beginning farming is access to land and access to capital. Well, West Sacramento, and again, pretty much every city has access to land that is sitting unused. So in 2014, our organization partnered with the city of West Sacramento in order to create the first urban farm. This particular urban farm, sitting at a very busy corner, is literally flourishing today. It was sitting unused for 20 years. It was the former site of a gas station and was a dumping site. And that site today is literally the site of a farm called Flourish Farm, and it is producing beautiful cut flowers, you-pick flowers for the community, farmers markets, selling to grocery stores and going to CSAs. Just 2/3 of an acre on the corner of a very busy couple of streets. Other ideas, other things that we have done, we have tried, and that are working. So on the right, private developer in West Sacramento, this land is sitting idle right now. At some point it will be developed. It's 3.5 acres. It could be developed in 5 years. It could be developed in 20. We don't know, but for now, it is absolutely wonderful urban farming opportunity. It's right next to a gas station and across the street from a wonderful regional market chain called Nugget Markets. On the left-hand side, the West Sacramento Housing Development Corporation. This is a low-income housing organization, mostly for low-income seniors. And they had a big patch of grass, literally 1/2 acre, that no one was using and hadn't been used for years. They were putting all these inputs into keeping this lawn going, and especially here in California, that's even bigger issue. And we literally took it all out and put in a farm. And so what all of these farms are doing in West Sacramento and all of the urban sites that we're working with are, first of all, obviously producing food. These revitalized, formerly unused urban spaces are growing much needed, healthy food. All of these farms are in food deserts. I would guess that many of you work in areas that have food deserts. Several of our farms are also growing for school lunch programs in their local districts. These are completely revitalized spaces. I cannot tell you how different these places look. I wish I had before and after for everything. I was trying to find them for these spaces. On the left again is Fifth and C. At the time was growing vegetables. That was a site, our first site, that's owned by the city of Sacramento. These sites are also, of course, local markets. So they are bringing people, they're bringing action, they're bringing activity, they're bringing jobs because of these local pop-up farm stands that we're doing pretty much every week. Then there's a great deal of local business support. Really a huge outpouring of excitement by our local business community. Not only because these places are being revitalized, and the ugly corner lot down the street is now a completely different place. Literally, new businesses have been brought into West Sacramento and are working and building their businesses next to our urban farms, and they have said it is because of the urban farms. So companies like Rayleigh's on the left, they bring their employees out for volunteer days. They involve their employees in their food bank work with Rayleigh's Food for Families, so that extra produce from the farms is going to local food banks. And of course, education. Every single one of the farms and farmers is engaged in education, and specifically for, of course, young people, but quite a lot of people of all ages as well. Then there is this whole other area that people have been talking about, you also probably have been hearing about, which is a term called Agrihoods. I don't personally love the term Agrihood. Those of us who work in this kind of world, we like community farms better. And let me be clear, this is not a community garden, this is a community farm. None of these are gardens, these are all commercial scale agriculture. They may be 1/4 of an acre, but they are commercial scale. So this was a former Hunt Wesson tomato plant, that big thing out there, the nasty looking thing up on the far right-hand side of the slide. This is in Davis. And this has been completely transformed, this particular location, into a brand new development called the Cannery in Davis. If any of you are on our tour later today, we're going to be going out there and you will see what it looks like today. So, but you may have heard about these places around the country, from Serenbe in Atlanta to Prairie Crossing in Illinois to a brand new one in Houston, Texas called Harvest Green. They are literally booming because it turns out that people, this distance away from agriculture, this distance away from the land and from food production, actually people want some piece back in it again. So they are clamoring for these kinds of developments. So who's doing this across the country? Of course, there's lots of people that are doing it, lots of cities, lots of community groups. These are some that I'm pointing out. Of course, in San Francisco in 2012, they did a whole round of urban ag ordinances and allowed for any landowner who was allowing their empty lot to be used for urban farming to use a farming tax base and not the commercial or residential tax base. Pretty big difference in cities like San Francisco. In Sacramento, took a great deal of time and they did a great deal of amazing effort in both the city and the county, have brand new urban ag ordinances who are fully now in effect. Another location that I got to visit a couple of years ago was in Baltimore, homegrown Baltimore. Anybody here from Baltimore? No? They have done an incredible job. A ton of empty, vacant lots in Baltimore. And the city said, what can we do to revitalize those spaces? So they decided urban agriculture was the way to revitalize those spaces. So they allowed people from the neighborhood to open up those spaces for rent and to farm them and to sell products from them and have farm stands from them. And don't forget the economics. People think, this urban agriculture stuff, it's little things, it's not big stuff. That is absolutely not true. Just take a look at the vertical farms that are going in Chicago, in New York. These are major, large-scale job opportunities, incredible opportunities for your communities. So what is holding you back from these kinds of opportunities? I challenge you to go back to your cities, to your communities, to your towns, and to tear down the fences of your vacant lots, to create citywide policies that encourage and even incentivize urban agriculture, to look at those zoning policies that are restricting or constricting urban farming and find ways to open the dialogue, to seek out your local beginning farming organizations and work with them, to create policies that incentivize your local institutions like schools and hospitals to buy from local farmers, and to stop saying, we can't do that here. So whatever you do and however you do it, I urge you to get farming. Thank you.